Hello and welcome to Homeowner Talk. My name is David Stone and I'm the president of Nevada Association Services. And this is my co-host, John Leach, who's a partner in the law firm of Leach, Johnson, Song, and Gruco. Each episode will be here to talk to you about important homeowner topics, whether they involve homeowner association issues or homeowner maintenance problems. We, along with our guests, are here to provide you with useful information on these subjects.
We also want to encourage you to interact with us and our guests each episode, so please visit our website at homeownertalktv.com and send us your questions. And we will try to answer as many of your questions as we can on the air and online. On this show, we're going to be speaking about insurance, homeowners association insurance, with a variety of experts.
We're now joined by Mark Coleman, who's the Executive Vice President of Specialized Products with Western Risk Insurance.
Mark, for our viewers, why don't you tell them a little bit about your background and just what you do for a living?
Okay. Well, as I said, my name is Mark Coleman, and I work for an insurance agency called Western Risk Insurance, and I'm the agent for approximately 700 community associations, and basically that's the sole thrust of my insurance practice. I work with community, be it residential or commercial, but common area communities.
How long have you been doing that?
12 years.
12 years. Well, we also know you've been kind enough to join us in the past to talk to our viewers about insurance, but it seems like, if anything, with everything that's going on in the economy and whatnot, insurance is even more important today than perhaps before. And most of our viewers probably don't have a great deal of experience with insurance, other than you have to have it, and sometimes you don't even know what it's supposed to cover. And I was wondering if you could maybe start off by just telling our viewers some of the things that they should be looking for, just basics with insurance.
Well, basically, every association can write 4 lines of insurance. 3 of those lines of insurance are required either by state statute or federal law, and the 4th one is solely optional. But all associations should write general liability insurance, which in the insurance business we call slip and fall. Should the association become legally liable due to a negligent act, the insurance would first defend them and then secondly indemnify them or pay for whatever the damages are. Okay? Other than liability insurance, they carry property insurances. Property insurance covers the pieces and parts that they own, along with the monies that they have, which we call fidelity. Then we have professional insurance, which covers for professional liability acts. So those are the basic 3 lines that every association should have. The 4th one is kind of unique to Nevada or the Southwest, and that's workers' compensation. And that's because associations hire other businesses to work for them, and you could be held liable for them if they did not have their own workers' compensation insurance.
So let's say I'm a new board member and I know very little about insurance, and we call you in and say, Mark, tell me the few things that as a board member I have to be aware of with respect to insurance.
Well,
the basics.
The basics, because I've been doing this for 12 years and I still don't know everything about it. I learn something new every couple days. But basically the first step I would say is you need to find someone that practices that. Your attorney, such as John, practices community association law. Your services is designed for community associations solely. So are mine. I only work with community associations, so I have underwriters that write for that specific risk. So the first step is to find, and I, of course, like an independent agent like myself, and the reason of that is an independent agent represents the association first party. So the association is my client, and I have to put them in best light at all times. I only owe the insurance company the dealing of good faith and fair dealings. As opposed to if you're dealing with an employee of the insurance company, he only owes his employer the duty of his allegiance. So it's very important to me that we represent them. So that's the first step. The second step is that the insurance agent understands and actually looks at the project. Has he read your CC&Rs? Has he read his own insurance policy? Does he understand that particular risk? So you find someone you trust. And that usually comes from recommendation of your other professionals.
You talked about the types of insurance that they should consider, but most board members would have no idea how much insurance they should have, whether on the liability or property. Right. How would they know how much to get, and when should they be comfortable that they have sufficient?
Well, again, in most documents, in most of your CC&Rs, it calls for an annual insurance review. One of the things that's probably unique to my particular agency is I actually issue letters of opinion. If the board asks me for a letter of opinion about their insurance, we will actually tell them what insurance they have. Do we feel that it meets the normal requirements of associations that are like, kind, and quality, which is to me very, very important, because if I'm earning my commissions through them, I should be able to put in writing to them that I did my job properly. And I think that's important because then if there is something wrong, you're relying on my errors and omissions and not their directors and officers.
Now, do you shop, or you're acting as a broker, if I understand
I'm a
correctly?
broker, so we
you're
go-
not tied to any individual provider,
No.
carrier.
Again, and I must put the association in best light. So we look at the actual risk, and we know which companies work with those, like a small HOA compared to a large high-rise. And then we shop those markets. We set always coverage first. What are the coverages do they need? Then we find the best price. The problem is, in today's market, with all the economic, everybody's looking at price. I can make your insurance cost anything you want, and you'll never know it until you have a claim because we can put all kinds of exclusions and write out the definitions. When you have a claim, then you'll know it. And that's really important because insurance is only intrinsic. It's only good when it's needed. So it's very important that it's there.
You know, and we were talking about our directors. Again, you talked about the types of insurance, and maybe you could address just briefly the directors and officers insurance, because if you have a volunteer who's decided to serve on the board and now they're serving and oops, they make a mistake because they're human, maybe you could describe why the directors and officers insurance is so important.
It is very important. It's important it's written in the right form. First of all, directors and officers is professional liability insurance. A doctor would call it malpractice insurance. I would call it insurance agents' errors and omissions. And it covers you for, just what you said, mistakes, professional errors, things that you do unintentionally, actually could not normally not intentionally, but things that you do unintentionally that someone holds you liable for. That's not a normal slip or fall. In other words, you make a financial decision that harms either a unit owner or the association itself. The really important thing in directors and officers is not that it just covers the directors and officers, because that's not most of the suits. It first has to cover the entity itself. Then it must cover each director and officer, and it's got to be really important in the named insured there, because the named insured has to be all past, present, future officers, directors, and or agents, because you have lots of people that become agents. You can have as simple as if I'm the board president and my wife goes talk to a neighbor about something, that could be an agent that they could draw into a suit. You need coverage for all those different types of occurrences.
And that clause, I imagine, would cover committee members or other people that the board of directors appoint to be involved
Correct.
with the board.
Correct. And I've found it, one of the most important things I've found in directors and officers is that there's two ways to do this. A lot of packages will write an endorsement and include the insurance by endorsement. I find it doesn't work well because in 20 parts of the policy it says this is excluded. Now in one little part it says it's back included, so it gives people things to fight about in court. I like separate and sole directors and officers policies that were written on the right form for professional insurance. Sometimes they cost a little bit more, but they provide you a lot better coverage.
See, I think it's really important that you're involved because you really know the uniqueness of the community associations. If you get your insurance person that, for example, just does your automobile, they may not know all the subtleties of it. You know, one of the big issues that we're having now is the economy, and everyone's having to pinch pennies.
Right.
What do you recommend as far as associations go in reevaluating how much they're paying? You can usually find something less expensive, maybe not. How do you address that? Because it's always got to be a pretty significant budget item for a community association.
We try to explain to them the differences in coverage. And if I have professional people on the board, generally that's enough. Who's been in business, who've ever had a problem. A lot of times what happens is you have some of the board members who haven't quite done a lot of business decisions all their lives, and they're looking at this like they're buying car insurance. And it's just what you said, it isn't car insurance. You need to set coverage first. What are the minimum coverages, and what are the terms that we need? And a lot of times it's not just coverage in the contract. Part of it's when you specialize in an area. I develop unique relationships with companies and with my underwriters. A company is more apt to work with someone who sends them, say, $5 million of business a year than someone who sends them one contract. There's been many, many times, and I can talk to a lot of different associations where an insurance company has turned down a claim, and I've called and talked to the counsel for the insurance company, and now they've reopened that claim because they'll actually. That's what I do. I represent the association.